You are reading this, and somewhere in the back of your mind, you are already thinking about something else. Not because you want to, not because this isn't interesting, but because your brain, the most complex object in the known universe, is deeply, profoundly, chemically uncomfortable with staying still. And it has been since the moment you were born. This is not a character flaw. This is not laziness. This is one of the strangest and most disturbing things about being human, and almost nobody talks about it honestly. Let's start with something you've done recently, maybe today. You picked up your phone, not because you got a notification, not because you needed something. You picked it up because a single second of silence felt uncomfortable. You opened an app you'd already checked 3 minutes before. Nothing had changed. Nothing was new. You put it down, picked it up again. And somewhere in that loop, in that mindless, automatic, almost embarrassing loop, you felt nothing. Not happy, not interested, not entertained, just occupied, just not bored. And that distinction, the difference between feeling good and simply not feeling bad, is where everything begins. Because boredom is not what you think it is. We've been told boredom is the absence of something. Nothing to do, nothing interesting, nothing happening. But that's wrong, completely wrong. Boredom isn't an absence, it's a presence. It is your brain sending you a signal, urgent, uncomfortable, impossible to ignore, that something is missing. Not something outside, something inside. In 1986, a psychologist named John Eastwood began studying boredom seriously, not as a joke, not as a trivial human complaint, as a clinical condition with measurable neurological causes. What he found changed how researchers understood the human mind. Boredom, he discovered, is not caused by having nothing to do. It's caused by a failure to engage attention, meaning you can be surrounded by infinite things to do, infinite content, infinite stimulation, and still feel the hollow, restless ache of complete boredom, which is exactly what most of us feel every single day and have no idea why. Here's the part that gets strange. Your brain has two systems that are always running. The first is your focus system, the part that locks onto things, processes information, makes decisions. The second is something called the default mode network. And the default mode network is what activates when you're doing nothing, when you're in the shower, when you're staring out a window, when you're waiting in line. Most people assume this is wasted time, empty time, dead time. It isn't. The default mode network is where your brain processes your identity. It's where you figure out who you are, what you want, where you've been, where you're going. It is, in a very real sense, the part of your brain that makes you a person rather than a machine, and we have almost completely destroyed it. Think about the last time you were truly, completely, uncomfortably bored. Not distracted, not scrolling, not half watching something, just alone with your thoughts. No phone, no noise, no input. For most people, that hasn't happened in years, maybe longer. Because we have built a world specifically designed to ensure that boredom never arrives. Every waiting room has a screen. Every elevator has music. Every pocket holds a portal to infinite content. We have eliminated almost every opportunity for silence. And we did it so gradually, so enthusiastically, so completely that we didn't notice what we were also eliminating. In 2014, researchers at the University of Virginia ran an experiment. They asked participants to sit alone in a room for 15 minutes. No phone, no book, nothing to do. The only option available to them was a small button that would deliver a mild electric shock to their ankle. They had already tried the shock before entering the room. They knew it was unpleasant. They said they would pay money to avoid feeling it again. And then they sat alone with their thoughts. 2/3 of the men chose to shock themselves. 1/4 of the women did too. They chose physical pain over 15 minutes of silence. Let that settle. They chose pain over being alone with their own mind. To understand why, you need to understand what boredom actually feels like in the brain. When you're bored, your dopamine levels drop. Dopamine is the chemical your brain uses to signal that something matters. Not pleasure exactly, not happiness, anticipation, the feeling of something being about to happen. When dopamine is flowing, you feel engaged, alert, interested, alive. When it drops, you feel flat, restless, like something is wrong, but you can't name it. Like you need something, but you don't know what. That's boredom. That's what it feels like from the inside. Your brain, starved of dopamine, scanning the environment, searching desperately for something, anything, that will make it feel like something is happening. And in 2024, it doesn't have to search for long, because we built machines specifically designed to exploit this moment. Your phone knows when your dopamine is low. Not literally, but by design. The endless scroll, the variable reward, the unpredictable notification. These are not features. They are dopamine delivery systems, built by engineers who understood one thing very clearly. A bored human will reach for anything that promises to make the boredom stop. And we reach. Every time. Here's the part nobody wants to say out loud. The apps are not designed to make you feel good. They're designed to make you feel just good enough to stay. There's a difference. Feeling good means you're satisfied. You put the phone down, you go live your life. Feeling just good enough means you're occupied but not fulfilled, stimulated but not satisfied. Boredom isn't gone, it's just been temporarily covered. Like painting over a crack in a wall. The crack is still there, getting wider. But here's the twist. Boredom is not a modern invention. It is ancient. One of the oldest human experiences. The ancient Romans had a word for it, tedium vitae, weariness of life. Medieval monks wrote about it, a spiritual condition called acedia, a hollow, restless darkness that descended in the afternoon and made everything feel meaningless. They thought it was a sin, a failure of the soul. We now know it's a function of the brain, but here's what's strange. For most of human history, boredom had a purpose. When a hunter-gatherer felt that restless, uncomfortable itch of having nothing to do, it pushed them, find food, explore territory, build something, solve something. Boredom was a biological alarm system. It was your brain saying, you are not doing enough to survive. Move. And it worked. For 300,000 years, it worked perfectly. Boredom created civilization. Restless humans who couldn't sit still invented tools, built cities, painted caves, wrote music, crossed oceans. Every great human achievement has boredom somewhere in its origin story. Someone who was uncomfortable sitting still, someone who needed something to happen. But then we built the phone, and we handed the brain's ancient alarm system, the thing that had driven 300,000 years of human achievement, to an app. And now when the alarm fires, instead of building something, we scroll. Instead of exploring, we refresh. Instead of creating, we consume. The alarm still fires, but the response has changed. And the brain, which doesn't know the difference between discovering fire and watching a 15-second video, gets just enough dopamine to stop the alarm, temporarily, until it fires again, 3 minutes later. Here's what nobody tells you about boredom. The discomfort you feel when the phone is in the other room and you have nothing to do, that isn't a problem. That is the most important signal your brain sends you. That restlessness, that hollow, reaching, uncomfortable ache is your mind saying, I am ready, I am available, I am capable of something more. Give me something real. The problem isn't that boredom arrived. The problem is what we've trained ourselves to do when it does. There's a researcher named Sandy Mann at the University of Salford. She spent years studying what happens to people when they allow themselves to be bored. Not distracted, not occupied, actually bored. What she found was unexpected. People who sat with boredom became significantly more creative. Their minds, deprived of input, started generating output, stories, ideas, connections between things they'd never connected before. The default mode network, the part of the brain we've been silencing, activated fully. Because creativity doesn't come from input, it comes from the space between inputs, from the silence, from the boredom. Here's where it gets personal. Think about the last genuinely original thought you had. Not something you read, not something you watched, not something someone told you, something that came from inside. Those moments, those unguarded, unstimulated moments, are the moments your brain is actually working at its highest level. And we have fewer of them every year, because every empty moment gets filled before it can breathe.
You are not broken. You are not failing at life.
You are a deep creature living in a shallow world. A world built for constant stimulation, but not for meaning. And that feeling you call boredom, it's not proof that something is wrong with you. It's proof that there's more to you than this world was designed to satisfy.